The first edition of this season's college football playoff rankings were released on Tuesday. Undefeated Clemson is ranked #1, followed by LSU. The defending national champion Buckeyes and one-loss Alabama round out the top 4. For the second year in a row, the committee seems to be sending a message to the Big 12. Undefeated Baylor, 6th. Undefeated TCU, 8th. Undefeated Oklahoma State, 14th. And one-loss Oklahoma is 15th. Skip, are you okay with one-loss Bama in the rankings?
Yes, I am, Stephen A. But before I get to my why, allow me to disqualify this topic, if you will. All that this is to me at this point in the college football season is a highly effective, actually a brilliant PR device by which the NCAA is able to set off the media and in turn the fans and create great debate halfway through the season that is absolutely meaningless. I put no stock in it. It works. Thank you very much. It helps our business that we're in, the media business here at ESPN. Thank you very much. But I, for one, refuse to fall into this trap at this point in the season because I remind you, the first ranking that came out at this point last season featured 3 teams that did not make the playoffs. Last year, Mississippi State was 1 at this point, Auburn was 3, and Ole Miss was 4. Didn't make it. Florida State at #2 did make it. You know the rest of the story. We have so far to go. I just can't read anything into this, but just to play the game, to play along with Molly's question, which is a good one. Yeah, what's my eye test tell me? Alabama belongs. They just do. They're one of the best 4 teams. I just watch a lot of college football, and I told you the Monday after Alabama lost at home to Ole Miss that Nick Saban blew the game. I still have no idea. I thought Jay Coker was pretty good, and all of a sudden, Nick Saban, for a game against what looked like at that point the best defense in college football, starts Cooper Bateman, the backup quarterback. What are you thinking, Nick? And predictably, his team turned it over 5 times. Ole Miss turned it over no times. And yet, it was still a fight to the finish. Alabama lost by 6 at home, 43-37. Then, of course, Ole Miss proceeded to disqualify itself by losing at Florida when Will Grier was still eligible to play quarterback for the Gators, when they were a little better than they are right now. And then, of course, Ole Miss went on to Memphis State, or to Memphis as they call it now. And Paxton Lynch did a number on them, and they lost 37-24. So now you say, oh, look, how can Alabama? Well, they're just that good. But we don't have to worry about it right now because clearly, Saturday night, 8 p.m., Alabama will host LSU, and then we'll find out. And then next Monday, we'll have a little better read on this. And, of course, LSU plays the most difficult remaining schedule in the country, and Alabama doesn't have any gimmies. They still have to go to Mississippi State and play at Auburn to finish, so I wouldn't just say those are going to be cakewalks. We just don't know yet. My final point is about the Big 12. Obviously, they have backloaded their schedules because they don't have a conference championship game. I'm a Big 12 fan because I grew up in Big 12 country in Oklahoma City. I'm here to predict right here, right now, I don't think any of those teams will make the Final 4. Seth Russell, maybe, if he'd stayed healthy at quarterback for Baylor, but with this kid Jarrett Stidham, who's a true freshman playing, I just don't think they're going to be good enough. TCU isn't as good as it was last year when I made the case. Remember, on the last day, the last ranking, TCU fell from 3 to 6 because they didn't play a conference championship game. They just beat up on Iowa State at home. Well, I fear for my conference again because Oklahoma State is not that good. They gave up 53 points in a victory over Texas Tech. And my Oklahoma Sooners managed to lose to Texas, which got shellacked at Iowa State the other day. So to me, just write them off, right off the conference. But Alabama deserves to be in the top 4. Your thoughts?
Well, come on now. Roll Tide.
That's what I thought I would get.
I'm going to say Alabama
complete
obviously belongs in the top 4.
Yeah.
Well, it is complete objectivity because when they lost to Ole Miss, I was like, what the hell is going on here? But I loved how they stomped Georgia, and they just beat down Georgia. Then they showed up against Texas A&M, my man Kevin Sumlin, and they handled their business at Texas A&M. So I give them their props. Now, let's say this, Skip. Alabama can't lose to LSU. I don't care about an eye test.
No.
You can't go and lose to LSU, have 2 losses on your resume, and be in the Final Four at the expense of Baylor or TCU out of the Big 12 if they run the table, go undefeated. At least one of them does. You can't do that to them. You can't do that to them a second year in a row. I don't care how good Alabama is. You can't have 2 losses. 1, yes, but you can't have 2. All right? So that's the way I look at Alabama. I think they'll beat LSU. I think they deserve to be in the conversation. Yep. LSU beating Florida, I think, showed me something, you know. And if the game is a nail bite and it's tight, but they lose to Alabama, then that makes things interesting about LSU because that would be their lone loss on the season thus far. We got to see. It's not about whether they lose to Alabama or not if they lose. It's about how they go down. If it's a nail biter, similar to what happened with Clemson against Notre Dame, then all of a sudden you look at LSU different. But if LSU loses to Alabama the way Georgia lost to Alabama, then you know what? You wipe them out and you say, hey, this doesn't work because you had a playoff caliber game. You understand? And this is how you showed up and performed. That's got to be held against you. So we'll see what happens with LSU as it pertains to Alabama. I think Alabama beats them, of course. I look at LSU. It depends on how you lose. Yep. If you do lose again, it'll be just 1 loss. I go to Notre Dame. They've got 1 loss already. They can't afford another loss. I don't see them losing. They're having a potential for a loss again until they go up against Stanford, even though Temple right here in Philadelphia. Let's give the Temple Owls some love. They gave Notre Dame a run for their money.
They sure did.
Who knows how that's going to be held for them or against them. Notre Dame has to show up the rest of the season. They have to show up against Stanford as well. When I look at Clemson, there's no question. To me, they deserve to be #1 right now. You know, Dabo Swinney just pointed out how he ain't paying attention to the polls right now. The one that matters is the last one, and that's when he's going to have a big-time party. You know, that's what they're going to do. But I look at Clemson and how they've played thus far. I think they deserve to be where they are, but I'm interested in seeing, Skip, what they do against Florida State.
So am I.
I want to see that matchup.
Yep.
I want to see how they perform. I want to see how they look. So we've got LSU, we've got Alabama, we've got Clemson, and, of course, Ohio State is Ohio State. They've had some issues. J.T. Barrett just got in trouble. You might go back to Cardell Jones. You might go back to J.T. Barrett. The quarterback play has been suspect. Yep. But I have no problem with the top 4. We just need to make sure the public understands, in all likelihood, this 4 will not last because, again, you've got LSU and Alabama playing one another. One of those may end up dropping out of the top 4, leaving room for one of those teams in the Big 12 or Notre Dame. To me, the debate is, what are you going to do between Baylor, TCU, and Notre Dame, assuming Notre Dame runs the table and wins the rest of their games? Michigan State is undefeated. I know that, but I don't like the way Michigan State has looked all year, and they didn't deserve to have beaten Michigan. You talk about luck. There was a lot of luck involved and a lot of mistakes on the part of Michigan. I just don't give them a lot of credit for that particular victory. They're undefeated, but they haven't looked that impressive. It comes down to the 4 that are in this thing, with the 3 outside looking in between Baylor, TCU, and Notre Dame.
And remember, Notre Dame lost its best quarterback, its best running back, and its best tight end, and they're still a very talented team. God bless them, but I'm not sure they're what they could have been when this year started.
Right.
And I'm
no
I'm
question
with you.
about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Skip.
Ohio State is still the most talented team in the country, and I'm hanging in with them winning it all. They haven't played quite up to their talent level yet because they've had all kinds of issues at quarterback because Cardale did not live up to the hype of coming into his first year as the full-time starter. But if they catch fire the way they did last year, late in this year, I just don't think anybody can touch them.
Well, I think Alabama, I would love to see a rematch of them and Alabama in the Final Four. I would tell you that. I'm not going to sleep on Clemson because I think Dabo's doing a hell of a job with them, and I think they've got tremendous potential, and they can beat anybody if they bring their A game. Of course, I'm going to pay attention to all of that, but I'm also going to look at Notre Dame as the potential sleeper because I think that they can win the rest of their games. And if they do it, despite the injuries they've incurred, you got to give credit where credit is due. The only thing that I would say to their coach is I like him a lot. I think he's done a hell of a job at Notre Dame. just don't be grabbing your assistant coaches, you know, the guys that work for you, by the neck on national television.
Yeah.
Just pump your brakes on that. It doesn't deserve to be a federal case. He overreacted emotionally. Nothing to lose sleep about. Just try to chill on the sidelines on national television. Pump the brakes a little bit. You ain't got no reason grabbing your coach like that.
With you very much. And I want to compliment you on your upgraded college football knowledge. It is spectacular. I'm impressed. You know your stuff.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I learned from the best, bro. Learn from the best.
I don't know about that.
And speaking of
I'm not joking.
From me, obviously. Everyone knows that. What do you mean to say?
Molly, I'm not joking. I didn't watch college football that much until Skip. I give Skip all the credit in the world.
Well, you certainly do now.
And golf, he gets all the credit for that. Thank you, bro.
And to both of your points, when you mentioned Ohio State, they were ranked 16th in the initial poll. We all know how that one ended. So if your team's not in the top 4, no need to panic quite yet. Moving on to somebody who certainly dominated in college football, but can he do it in the NFL? Johnny Manziel will be back under center in Cincy. It's a division game against an undefeated team, a tough one. Skip and Stephen A. will tell us what to expect next.